She don't know love is right. Oh, she don't know love. Love is far away from the pain that I see in her eyes. But all of that would change when she's mine. It's like she don't want love, she just can't accept love, 'cause I'm having with love that's keeping her from love. Maybe an ex-lover, could be a father. I don't know, all I can tell how she relates to me. But I would give all of my heart if she would just believe. She don't know love, I love you. She don't know love is right here. Oh, she don't know love, I love you. Love is far away from the pain that I see in her eyes. But all of that will change when she's mine.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. And good morning. Happy Sunday, everyone. If you are tuning in live or if you come a little later and catch it on the replay, good morning, sunshines. Welcome to my channel. I'm Organized Chaos. I hope you are having a wonderfully blessed day. Life is, life does what it does. Life is lifing. However, with all the things that life does, it is very important that we learn to just be present, to just be aware of right now in this moment. This is all we got, right? So hello and thank you and welcome, welcome and welcome. Thanks for being here. To my future self, future generations, it's okay. Y'all gonna make it through. To my former self, the former version of me, even yesterday's version of me, forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. Learn from your mistakes. Move forward and grow. Don't focus on the being part of human beingness. Don't focus on the human part. Girl, you is messing up already because it's early. Don't focus on the human part of our humanness. Focus on being. Just be. Be present. Be now. Be. All right. I came on really early because if I don't, I won't get it done. And I couldn't come on yesterday. I had to take care of some business. I was learning some wonderful things and some really powerful professional development that I was honored to be a part of. And so now that I'm home today and it's really early, I'm going to read this chapter 3, the core of the ego. I figure my friends that like to talk to me when I'm live are probably still asleep, so I can read without my chat going crazy. And yeah, because last week it was just a whole conversation. Life update. Excuse me. Life update. I did get accepted into graduate school. So I will be pursuing my PhD. My first class will start in a couple of weeks. So I am extremely excited about that. It is a journey that I started over a decade ago, and I just didn't finish it. And 2 years ago, I was gonna go back to finish, and life and I had to make some difficult decisions, and I couldn't get back on that road. I think life is kind of like giving me a breather right now, and it is just a perfect time to do it. So, yeah, I'm very excited that I will soon be Dr. Organized Chaos. Welcome to the madness. All right. We are going to get into our book, A New Earth, Eckhart Tolle. This is The Core of Ego, Chapter 3. Most people are so completely identified with the voice in the head, the incessant stream of involuntary and compulsive thinking, and the emotions that accompany it, that we may describe them as being possessed by their mind. As long as you are completely unaware of this, you take the thinker to be who you are. This is the egoic mind. We call it egoic because there is a sense of self, of I, ego, in every thought, every memory, every interpretation, opinion, viewpoint, reaction, emotion. This is unconsciousness, spiritually speaking. Your thinking, the content of your mind, is of course conditioned by the past, your upbringing, culture, family background, and so on. The central core of all your mind activity consists of certain repetitive and persistent thoughts, emotions, and reactive patterns that you identify with most strongly. This entity is the ego itself. In most cases, when you say I had somebody in my office and all they told me about how they feel about this other person is I, my gut instinct, me, my, I. I work with a lot of I energy. I've never encountered this much I energy in my entire life, y'all. And it is very if I hadn't been doing this work, I don't know how I would be able to function. um children don't children's I, me, my energy is much different than adult me, my, I energy. Children's me, my, I energy is a lot of curiosity and a lot of still learning and openness to growing, right? Adult me, my, I energy is very closed-minded. It is very not growth-minded. And a lot of it is really negative and toxic. Me, my, I is really the center of how they function, how they live, how they see the world. I'm not perfect, so I'm not going to say I don't have it. I do, and I will say I've been doing work on myself so that when I notice it, I can kind of pull back from it and take a bigger picture and pull my ego out of it and be very just. My dad and my stepmom came to visit me yesterday. One thing my stepmom told me that was, I don't know if it was like an awakening or if it kind of reaffirmed the work that I had been doing on myself. She was like, you don't lead with your emotions. And that can be bothersome to people when you will not be emotional with them. And she's right. There are two for sure people who can get me emotional. And I've been working on that. My kids. My kids. And I get emotional about things. However, I allow the emotions with me to do what they need to do. And then I come back into the presentness and I think about the information that is going to inform how I move, not my emotions. I have gotten to a place where I'm not going to be moved by emotion, right? Because they change. Your emotions are going to change consistently all the time. And especially with women, child, we are some very emotional creatures. I said we, all of us. But we also have the ability to tap into being our God inside of us and to not let our emotions run our lives. Because when we do that, we make mistakes that we can't necessarily bounce back from. When you move in your emotions, you don't have the evidence to support anything that you're doing. You just feel. I feel like this. I feel like that. What are your feelings based on? If you don't have the information or the data to support your feelings, it's just your ego. And you should do better. You can grow better. You can be better. This entity is the ego itself. In most cases, when you say I, it is the ego speaking, not you, as we have seen. It consists of thought and emotion, of a bundle of memories you identify with as me and my story. Like I just said, it's the me, my, I of humanness that a lot of us get caught up in, of habitual roles you play without knowing it, of collective identification such as nationality, religion, race, social class, or political allegiance. It also contains personal identifications, not only with possessions, but also with opinions, external appearance, long-standing resentments, or concepts of yourself as better than or not as good as others, as a success or failure. The content of the ego varies from person to person, but in every ego, the same structure operates. In other words, egos only differ on the surface. Deep down, they are all the same. In what way are they the same? They live on identification and separation. When you live through the mind made self compromised of thought and emotion, that is the ego. The basis for your identity is precarious because thought and emotion are by their very nature ephemeral, fleeting. So every ego is continuously struggling for survival, trying to protect and enlarge itself. To uphold the I thought, it needs the opposite thought of the other. The conceptual I cannot survive without the conceptual other. The others are most other when I see them as my enemies. At one end of the scale of this unconscious egoic pattern lies the egoic compulsive habits of fault finding and complaining about others. Jesus referred to it when he said, why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye. At the other end of the scale, there is physical violence between individuals and warfare between nations. In the Bible, Jesus' question remains unanswered. But the answer is, of course, because I criticize or condemn another, it makes me feel better. It makes me feel superior. It makes me feel right about the wrong that I'm about to do. It makes me feel better about what I'm about to say negatively about another human being. It makes me feel as though I can judge you, but I'm all good. I don't make mistakes. I don't need to be forgiven for anything. I am perfect. I don't need to do work on me. You need to do work on you. That's what your ego is. Be mindful of how you talk about other people. Be mindful about giving grace and space for people to be a human, because we all are. We all are. Everybody has not gotten to the being part of the humanness. Let humans human. That's what they gonna do. Your job, if you are centered, if you are in control of your energy, if you are mindful, is to not judge them in their humanness. Everybody is not in the same space at the same time. Age does not quantify where you should be. Complaining and resentment. Ooh, wee. I just had a whole conversation with somebody about being the complaint police. It's your job to gather the complaints. What in the what? Yes, y'all. There are human beings who literally go out and seek to validate their own dislike or disdain about other human beings and become the complaint police. I've never experienced, like, I feel like I'm in a twilight zone sometimes. I've never experienced so much of this type of energy ever. Ever. I didn't know it was like this. Complaining is one of the ego's favorite strategies for strengthening itself. Every complaint is a little story the mind makes up that you completely believe in. Whether you complain aloud or only in thought makes no difference. Some egos that perhaps don't have much else to identify with easily survive on complaining alone. When you are in the grip of such an ego, complaining, especially about people, is habitual and, of course, unconscious, which means you don't know what you are doing. Applying negative mental labels to people, either to their face or more commonly when you speak about them to others, or even just think about them, is often part of this pattern. Name calling is the crudest form of such labeling and of the ego's need to be right and triumph over others. Jerk, bastard, bitch, all definitive pronouncements that you can't argue with. On the next level down on the scale of unconsciousness, you have shouting and screaming, and not much below that, physical violence. Resentment is the emotion that goes with complaining and the mental labeling of people and adds even more energy to the ego. Resentment means to feel bitter, indignant, aggrieved, or offended. You resent other people's greed, their dishonesty, their lack of integrity, what they are doing, what they did in the past, what they said, what they failed to do, what they should or shouldn't have done. The ego loves it. Instead of overlooking unconsciousness in others, you make it into their identity. Who is doing that? The unconsciousness in you, the ego. Sometimes the fault that you perceive in another isn't even there. It is a total misinterpretation, a projection by a mind conditioned to see enemies and to make itself right or superior. At other times, the fault may be there, but by focusing on it, sometimes to the exclusion of everything else, you amplify it. And and what you react to in another, you strengthen in yourself. Non reaction to the ego in others is one of the most effective ways, not only of going beyond ego in yourself, but also of dissolving the collective human ego. That is where I am learning. I haven't mastered it, but that is where I am learning to reside. If I do not learn to reside above all of the egos, these grown up egos that come at me daily with their own agenda, with their own opinions, I could not be an effective leader. Any leader that is moved by the emotions of the people that they work with, you cannot be an effective leader. You will not be stable in decision making. You will not be able to stand on an unpopular decision, even when you know, based on your data and your observations and the overall mission and vision or goal of the company is that that is the right decision. You will not be able to be an effective leader if you are moved by all of these different egos and all of these different agendas that are going to come your way. Nobody warned me. Nobody told me. They should have. I don't even know, I don't know if there is enough preparation that you can do to do this type of work that I do. And I do. So, part of me sometimes it's like, I feel like I was put here and it's like sink or swim. And I don't know if there's another way to do it though, right? Like, you are either going to sink or swim as a leader. And I'm just going to take a little detour. I've been thinking about what is my dissertation going to be about? I think, at least on this day, on today, because I don't control the future, I want my dissertation to be about Black women in leadership, the preparation for it, the positions that they eventually will hold. And I also think about, there was a phrase mentioned in a meeting I was in the other day, twice exceptional. Do Black women have to be twice exceptional to get positions that other races don't have to get? I think that's going to be the start of my dissertation. I'm sure it's going to be refined when I get my chair and I start the work. But that is I think that is what I am passionate about now. Black women in leadership, the preparation that they get, the mindfulness that we have to have. And we also have to learn to modulate a lot of us in white spaces that were not necessarily created us for us to operate in and aren't necessarily aware of the biases that they hold and have in those spaces. Okay, I'm coming back to this road. But you can only be in a state of non-reaction if you can recognize someone's behavior as coming from the ego, as being an expression of the collective human dysfunction. Mhm. I think that's one of the things that we're doing some work with our staff. I knew there were very dysfunctional things happening in the staff last year when I first got there. I couldn't name it. I couldn't quantify it. I couldn't really put my finger on it. But some of the work that we've been doing right now has really pinpointed yeah, this is a problem. We don't all know what the answer to some of these questions that were being asked are. So it's been really, and I'm sorry I can't tell y'all all the details, but it's just been really interesting to see some very unawareness that is embedded in systems. Let's just go with systems in general. We have systems in our country, and there are some behaviors that have been allowed, that have been upheld in some of these systems because it just is what we've been doing. Why would we change what we've been doing? We feel like it's been working for us, even though we might not have the data to show that it's been working for us. But we've been doing it this way all along. Why do we need to change it now? Because it feels a way. When you realize it's not personal, there is no longer a compulsion to react as if it were. By not reacting to the ego, you will often be able to bring out the sanity in others, which is the unconditioned consciousness as opposed to the conditioned. At times, you may have to take practical steps to protect yourself from deeply unconscious people. This you can do without making them into enemies. Your greatest protection, however, is being conscious. Somebody becomes an enemy if you personalize the unconsciousness that is the ego. Non-reaction is not weakness, but strength. Another word for non-reaction is forgiveness. To forgive is to overlook, or rather, to look through. You look through the ego to the sanity that is in every human being as his or her essence. One of the things about human beings who are unaware or unmindful, they believe that if you don't react, that they have somehow won or triumphed in whatever it is. They're so unaware of their ego that they've now told themselves, well, I got the last word. And so since I said what I said, and since you ain't got nothing to say, I won, as if this was a contest to win. I've had that said to me before. You just want to win. I don't want to win. I want peace. Peace means I can humble myself. I can keep the thoughts that I'm thinking at bay and just be, and allow you to just be in whatever that is, because it is not my job to help you become aware. It is not my job to help you be conscious. It is my job to be the example, to lead the way that I live, to lead and live the way that I know beings should. And that can be uncomfortable for people who just want to win. You always want to win. That made you feel good to cuss me out? Did that make you feel good to cuss me out? Okay. If that's all it took for you to feel good, have at it. At the end of the day, I stand firm in what I said, and I meant what I said. And I'm not going to cuss you out back. I'm going to bless you. Bless you, baby. God, you know, one of them southern aunties and grandmamas, bless your heart. They called you stupid. Bless that baby's heart. Stupid. The ego loves to complain and feel resentful, not only about other people, but also about situations. Victim, victim, victim. That's your ego. If you are always a victim, if somebody always doing you and yours wrong, that is your ego. What you can do to a person, you can also do to a situation. Make it into an enemy. The implication is always, this should not be happening. I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. I am being treated unfairly. And the ego's greatest enemy of all is, of course, the present moment, which to say, life itself. Complaining is not to be confused with informing someone of a mistake or deficiency so that it can be put right. And to refrain from complaining doesn't necessarily mean putting up the bad quality or behavior. There is no ego in telling the waiter that your soup is cold and needs to be heated up. If you stick to the facts, which are always neutral, the data, the information, how dare you serve me cold soup? That's complaining. There is a me here that loves to feel personally offended by the cold soup as if people can't make mistakes. And is going, and you would assume that the waiter just did it on purpose, right? Bring information to people. Don't make assumptions about people and their intentions. There is a me here that loves to feel personally offended by the cold soup and is going to make the most of it. A me that enjoys making someone wrong. Oh, baby. Parents, stop it. If there is a situation at your child's school and your child comes home and tells you all of the things that happened to them and how wrong they were done, do not make an assumption that little Kiki is telling you the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Do not approach others as if little Kiki does no wrong. You should be curious and you should ask questions. Can you tell me what happened when you talked to my child? Can you tell me what you asked? Don't assume that because little Kiki got caught in a lie, that it was a setup. Grown-ups are not trying to set children up to fail, but grown-ups are trying to get to the bottom of what happens in classrooms, in hallways, and with behaviors. And just because little Kiki got caught in that lie, now little Kiki is like, oh, let me tell my parents something so that I don't get in trouble when they find out I lied. Right? I got to be the victim here. Because I know if I'm the victim, my parents will believe I'm the victim. They believe everything I say. They don't question anything I say. Like, I'm always right. So let me make up a story real quick to make everybody else wrong. Parents, stop doing that. The complaining we are talking about is in the service of the ego, not of change. Sometimes it becomes obvious that the ego doesn't really want to change so that it can go on complaining. Some people find comfort and joy in complaining. It just is what it is. See, if you can catch, that is to say, notice the voice in the head, perhaps in the very moment it complains about something, and recognize it for what it is, the voice of that ego, no more than a conditioned mind pattern, a thought. Whenever you notice that voice, you will also realize that you are not the voice, but the one who is aware of it. In fact, you are the awareness that is aware of the voice. In the background, there is the awareness. In the foreground, there is the voice, the thinker. In this way, you are becoming free of the ego, free of the unobserved mind. The moment you become aware of the ego in you, it is strictly speaking no longer, I'm sorry. It is strictly speaking no longer the ego, but just an old conditioned mind pattern. Ego implies unawareness. Awareness and ego cannot coexist. The old mind pattern or mental habit may still survive or reoccur for a while because it has the momentum of thousands of years of collective human unconsciousness behind it. But every time it is recognized, it is weakened. When you find yourself being ego or led by your ego, that is how you can stop it and come back into your being and not let your humanness control your mind and your emotions. Do not emotionally react. Learn to mentally respond. And a lot of the times, speaking in the vernacular of silence can do more good for you than anything else when you don't really know what to do, when you still are working on mindfulness and being present. If you don't have the tools yet, be quiet. Reactivity and grievances. Whereas resentment is often the emotion that goes with complaining, it may also be accompanied by a stronger emotion, such as anger or some other form of upset. In this way, it becomes more highly charged energetically. Complaining then turns into reactivity, another of the ego's ways of strengthening itself. There are many people who are always waiting for the next thing to react against, to feel annoyed or disturbed about, and it never takes long before they find it. This is an outrage, they say. How dare you? I resent this. They are addicted to upset and anger as others are to a drug. Through reacting against this or that, they assert and strengthen their feeling of self. A long-standing resentment is called a grievance. To carry a grievance is to be in a permanent state of against. And that is why grievances constitute a significant part of many people's ego. Collective grievances can survive for centuries in the psyche of a nation or a tribe and fuel a never-ending cycle of violence. This is why wars, continual wars, will always exist. Ego. This is why family feuds will always be a thing. Ego. This is why people will harm other people. Ego. A grievance is a strong negative emotion connected to an event in the sometimes distant past that is being kept alive by compulsive thinking, by retelling the story in the head or out loud of what someone did to me. Oh, I wish I had $1 for every time somebody walked in my office and told me what somebody did to them. I just really be like, okay, what you want me to do? My kids used to do it growing up, right? Like most children do it. But such and such big brother did this to me. Okay, what you want me to do? My kids used to hate that. My daughter called me one time talking about I was upstairs, she was downstairs. She called me talking about she was throwing up. And this ain't got nothing to do with her ego because she was. But she's 20 years old. I'm throwing up. What you want me to do? Come in here and watch you? Like, I can't fix it. I can't fix that. A grievance will also contaminate other areas of your life. For example, while you think about and feel your grievance, its negative emotional energy can distort your perception of an event that is happening in the present or influence the way in which you speak or behave towards someone in the present. Yeah, I got a lot of that happening at work. Everybody walking around mad at everybody. They mad because they can't complain enough to change your opinion about a decision that you make. They mad because somebody hurt their feelings. They mad because somebody is arrogant. They mad, like they just be mad about madness. I just be like, why are you worried about any of that stuff? You can't control it. Move on. One strong grievance is enough to contaminate large areas of your life, to contaminate your workplace. People walk around with their grievances and then they find it's like grievance magnets. They find other human beings that they can complain about and spread that negative energy. Then they find another group of negative human beings and they spread that negative energy. And before you know it, the whole place is just toxic. The energy is toxic. Nobody can get along because everybody mad at each other. Because now you carrying the weight of somebody else's grievances. And now, what do you call it? I know it happens a lot on YouTube. Trauma bonding. You guys have bonded over grievances. That is what you have in common. Some negative shit. Really? You want to have a common bond with somebody over trauma and negativity? Why? That seems very sad and unhappy. Why do you want to live in that space? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know who broke you, but I hope you can find the pieces to put yourself back together. Because who wants to live like that? Not me. You might, but I'm sorry. I'm not residing there. One strong grievance is enough to contaminate large areas of your life and keep you in the grip of the ego. It requires honesty to see whether you still harbor grievances, whether there is someone in your life you have not completely forgiven, an enemy. If you do, become aware of the grievance, both on the level of thought as well as emotion. That is to say, be aware of the thoughts that keep it alive and feel the emotion that is the body's response to those thoughts. Don't try to let go of the grievance. Trying to let go to forgive does not work. Forgiveness happens naturally when you see that it has no purpose other than to strengthen a false sense of self, to keep the ego in place. The seeing is freeing. Jesus' teachings to forgive your enemies is essentially about the undoing of one of the main egoic structures in the human mind. The past has no power to stop you from being present now. The past, all of the wrongs that you feel like you was wronged about, the wrong that was wronged on top of the wrong, can't be changed. All you have is now. How do you let go of that past so you can have now? More nowness than pastness. You can lay plans for the future, but you can't even live there because life is going to life and it's going to do what it's going to do. Right now is all you have. The past has no power to stop you from being present now. Only your grievance about the past can do that. And what is a grievance? The baggage of old thoughts and emotions. Why are you living there? Good morning, Foxy. Hey, boo. I had to jump on here super early because I know if I waited, that's why I didn't even text you to tell you I was coming. Because then if you and Beautiful would have got on here, I would have been having a whole nother conversation like last week. And I needed to get in and out and get this chapter out there because I knew this was going to be a good chapter and I needed to feed myself to get through the work week because this type of egoic energy is prominent in my workplace and I am having to deal with it on so many levels that I knew I needed to read this chapter. I needed to get this learning inside of me. And I had a good weekend of learning already with my professional development that I do. And I knew this was going to be like the icing on the cake. It was going to like put all the things in me and to just kind of reaffirm and get me solid so that I could deal with it tomorrow. Because, baby, Friday was a day. And it's going to reignite itself tomorrow. And I just need to be prepared. Being right, making wrong. Complaining as well as fault finding and reactivity strengthen the ego's sense of boundary and separateness on which its survival depends. But they also strengthen the ego in another way by giving it a feeling of superiority on which it thrives. It may not be immediately apparent how complaining, say, about a traffic jam, about politicians, about the greedy wealthy, or the lazy unemployed, or your colleagues or ex-spouse, men or women, can give you a sense of superiority. Here is why. When you complain, by implication, you are right, and the other person, or the situation you complain about or reacting against is wrong. It's wrong. What tea? What tea am I don't got no tea to spill. About my Friday? Child, I'm learning how parents behave now. That's all. Employees is child. Now I got child. That's it. I ain't got no tea to spill. Other than I'm about to be Dr. Organized Chaos. I already said that at the beginning, but you missed it. I did that. Dr. Key. Dr. Organized Key. With the PhD. Bars. There is nothing that strengthens the ego more than being right. Being right is identification with a mental position, a perspective, an opinion, a judgment, a story, and dare I say, my gut feelings. My gut tells me what to do, and when I don't listen to my gut, everything goes wrong. Child. Your gut is going to keep you in a world of tummy aches if you keep on responding to gut reactions, gut feelings, gut emotions. Your gut ain't got no facts to back up the gut. Stop it. For you to be right, of course, you need someone else to be wrong. And so the ego loves to make wrong in order to be right. In other words, you need to make others wrong in order to get a stronger sense of who you are. Not only a person, but also a situation can be made wrong through complaining and reactivity, which always implies that this should not be happening. Being right places you in a position of imagined moral superiority in relation to the person or situation that is being judged and found wanting. It is that sense of superiority the ego craves, and through which it enhances itself. In defense of an illusion, facts undoubtedly exist. If you say light travels faster than sound, and someone else says the opposite is the case, you are obviously right and he is wrong. The simple observation that lightning precedes thunder could confirm this. So not only are you right, but you know you are right. Is there any ego involved in this? Possibly, but not necessarily. If you are simply stating what you know to be true, the ego is not involved at all. There is no identification. Identification with what? Truth. The truth. That's it. With mind and a mental position, such identification, however, can easily creep in. If you find yourself saying, "Believe me, I know," or "Why do you never believe me?" then the ego has already crept in. It is hiding in the little word me. I believe. I'm concerned. I'm worried. My gut is telling me. I don't understand. Me, my, I. Foxy, you've been working with grown-ups way longer than I have. Have you encountered a lot of me energy working with adults? This is my first time having to care about grown-ups and their opinions. I just didn't know so much of working with adults was wrapped up in their ego, not in what's best for kids, not in what's best because the data says this. It is literally me, my, like, it is very concerning to me, especially as an educator. I just always assumed that all educators had really open, broad minds, right? Like, we go to school, we do a lot of studying, we do a lot of professional development. I just thought all educators were growth minded, and it's just not true. Like, it's just not true. And now I'm like, how are you in front of a classroom of children trying to grow them if you are deficit minded, if you live life deficitly thinking about everything going wrong, about how everything is terrible? I didn't know that type of energy was so pervasive. Is that how they work at your job, Foxy? I ain't know. Nobody warned me about this part. They just didn't warn me about this part. But I'm here for it, because I be feeling like every day I just be swatting people. Like, I'm not going to be moved by your negativity. Stop it. Stop it. If you don't have the data to support what you're saying to me, stop it. Like, get away from me. Like, I hear you. I'm not going to feel you, though, because your energy is negative. But I hear you. I feel fear in your complaining, but I don't understand why you don't give things a chance. Yeah. Nice ring, Dr. Organized Chaos. At least we know that will be, you know what? Foxy, Foxy, Foxy. You cannot be petty. We supposed to be the elevated. This is the elevation station today, Foxy. We can't be petty. Stop it. Yes, all the time. Me, I, my. All about me. What about me? Girl, nobody warned me. Oh my, like, I didn't know. And I really didn't complain to my principal or to my administrator. I just taught in my classroom. And so being on this side, I'm like, y'all really complaining because you got to change your classroom? We got to have a therapy session? What? Okay. I didn't know. But obviously, I'm learning and working with grown-ups, pervasive egos. A simple statement: light is faster than sound, although true, is now in the service of illusion of ego. It has become contaminated with the false sense of I. It has become personalized, turned into a mental position. The I feels diminished or offended because somebody doesn't believe what I said. Mhm. Ego takes everything personally. Emotion arises, defensiveness, perhaps even aggression. Are you defending the truth? No. The truth, in any case, needs no defense. The light or sound does not care about what you or anybody else thinks. You are defending yourself, or rather, the illusion of yourself, the mind made substitute. It would be even more accurate to say that the illusion is defending itself. If even the simple and straightforward realm of facts can lend itself to egoic distortion and illusion, how much more so the less tangible realm of opinions, viewpoints, and judgments, all of them thought forms that can easily become infused with the sense of I. Every ego confuses opinions and viewpoints with facts. Furthermore, it cannot tell the difference between an event and its reaction to that event. Every ego is a master of selective perception and distorted and oh, I got to sticky note this, y'all. I'm gonna say it again after I highlight it. because this is good stuff right here. I got to put this in my newsletter to the staff. I know they sick of me. I love them though. Every ego, hold on, let me pull in, and we're gonna have an intimate story time with this sentence and this paragraph. Every ego is a master of selective perception and distorted interpretation. Only through awareness, not through thinking, can you differentiate between fact and opinion. Oh, let me say that for the congregation in the back up in the balcony that just walked in after the sermon. Only through awareness, not through thinking, can you differentiate between fact and opinion. Only through awareness are you able to see. There is the situation, and here is the anger I feel about it. And then realize there are other ways of approaching the situation, other ways of seeing it and dealing with it. Only through awareness can you see the totality of the situation or person instead of adopting one limited perspective. Truth, relative or absolute. Beyond the realm of simple and verifiable facts, the uncertainty that I am right and you are wrong is a dangerous thing in personal relationships, as well as in interactions between nations, tribes, religions, and so on. But if the belief, I am right, you are wrong, is one of the ways in which the ego strengthens itself, if making yourself right and others wrong is a mental dysfunction that perpetuates separation and conflict between human beings, does that mean there is no such thing as right or wrong behavior, action, or belief? And wouldn't that be the moral relativism that some contemporary Christian teachings see as the greatest evil of our time? The history of Christianity is, of course, a prime example of how the belief that you are in sole possession of the truth, that is to say, right, can corrupt your actions and behavior to the point of insanity. We just talked about religions last week here. Most of us if you are in America, the prominent, dominant religion in America is Christianity. If you grew up believing that Christianity was superior to other religions, and most of us did, I said us, me included, were fed lies. There is no superior. If that's the case, all of the other religions are all going to hell. If you're not a Christian, you going to hell. Who decides? What human being gets to decide or damn you to hell? Based on what? What does that look like? What does that feel like? Like what? Where's the data to support that? For centuries, torturing and burning people alive. Slavery. If their opinion diverged, even in the slightest, from the church doctrine, from Christianity, Christianity has upheld abuse. The whole Catholic Church scandal and the priests. Did you see what the Buddha did the other day? Was it the Buddha or the Dalai Lama and stuck his tongue out at the little boy? Stop putting yourself, your being, in the hands of another human being, in the hands of a doctrine. Okay, let me go back because I done started preaching, child. for centuries, torturing and burning people alive if their opinion diverged, even in the slightest, from church doctrine or narrow interpretations of scripture, was considered right because the victims were wrong. If you enslaved me and I ran away, you had the right because I was wrong. How dare you run away? How dare you escape slavery? So now I get to punish you. And I'm going to use the Bible. I'm going to find something in the Bible that makes me feel good about punishing you, that gives me the right to be mean and evil to you, right? Like, y'all, we got it. We got to call things things. We got to call things as they are. The truth was considered more important than human life. And what was the truth? It was a story you had to believe in. It was some laws that you had to buy into. It was the preacher telling you and interpreting the word for you to support the foo la la la, which means a bundle of thoughts and feelings. The 1 million people that mad dictator Pol Pot of Cambodia ordered killed included everybody who wore glasses. Why? To him, the Marxist interpretation of history was the absolute truth. And according to his version of it, those who wore glasses belonged to the educated class, the bourgeoisie, the exploiters of the peasants. They needed to be eliminated to make room for a new social order. His truth also was a bundle of thoughts. The Catholic and other churches are actually correct when they identify relativism, the belief that there is no absolute truth to guide human behavior, as one of the evils of our time. But you won't find absolute truth if you look for it where it cannot be found in doctrines, ideologies, sets of rules, or stories. What do all of these have in common? What do all of these have in common? They are man-made thoughts. They are thoughts that man thought of. Let's make some laws. Let's make some rules. Let's have some beliefs. That's why Buddhists say the finger pointing to the moon is not the moon. All religions are equally false and equally true, depending on how you use them. You can use them in the service of the ego, or you can use them in the service of the truth. If you believe only your religion is the truth, Christians, you are using it in the service of the ego. That is what I had to unlearn. I was just like you, Christian. I thought Christianity was the end all to be all. I never understood how my mother didn't go to church every Sunday. I never understood how you were anything other than a Christian. I too had been brainwashed by our society into believing that Christianity was the only way to get to God. Used in such a way, religion becomes ideology and creates an illusory sense of superiority, as well as division and conflicts between people. In the service of the truth, religious teachings represent signposts or maps left behind by awakened humans to assist you in spiritual awakening. This is to say, in becoming free of identification with form. There is only one absolute truth, and all other truths emanate from it. When you find that truth, your actions will be in alignment with it. Human action can reflect the truth or it can reflect illusion. Can the truth be put into words? Yes. But the words are, of course, not it. They only point to it. The truth is inseparable from who you are. Yes, you are the truth. I am that I am. One thing I am clear of, finally, is that I am the truth. And being the truth, being aware, being conscious is very uncomfortable for unconscious human beings. It is very uncomfortable. I have them in my family. I work with them every day. I see them. I see parents that are just not aware. And your presence, my presence, can make a very unconscious person uncomfortable. The truth is inseparable from who you are. Yes, you are the truth. If you look for it elsewhere, you will be deceived every single time. The very being that you are is truth if you choose it. I want to insert if you choose it. Some of us know better. Some of us just don't want to do better. There is usually like something on your shoulder telling you, no, that doesn't feel good. This is not who you are. And some of us choose to leave me alone. I want to operate an ego. I want to feel good about me today. I don't want to care about the world. I don't want to care about other people. I want to be right. I want to validate myself, my thoughts, my anger. I want to be mad all the time because it makes me feel good to be angry at the world because all of these terrible things have happened to me and somebody needs to account for it. The very being that you are is truth. Jesus tried to convey that when he said, I am the way and the truth and the life. These words uttered by Jesus are one of the most powerful and direct pointers to the truth. If understood correctly, if misinterpreted, however, they become a great obstacle. Jesus speaks of the innermost I am, the essence identity of every man and woman. Excuse me. Every life form. In fact, he speaks of the life that you are. Some Christian mystics have called it the Christ within. Buddhists call it your Buddha nature. For Hindus, it is the Atman, the indwelling God. When you are in touch with your dimension within yourself, and being in touch with it is your natural state, not some miraculous achievement. All your actions and relationships will reflect the oneness with all life that you sense deep within. This is love. Laws, commandments, rules, and regulations are necessary for those who are cut off from who they are, for those who are cut off from the truth that lives within you. They prevent the worst excesses of the ego, and often they don't even do that. Love and do what you will, said Augustine. Words cannot get much closer to the truth than that. The ego is not personal. On a collective level, the mindset, we are right and they are wrong, is particularly deeply entrenched in those parts of the world where conflict between two nations, races, tribes, religions, or ideologies is long standing. Extreme and endemic. Both sides of the conflict are equally identified with their own perspective, their own story. That is to say, identified with thought. Both are equally incapable of seeing that another perspective, another story may exist and also be valid. Israeli writer Y. Havalvi speaks of the possibility of accommodating a competing narrative. But in many parts of the world, people are not yet able or willing to do that. Both sides believe themselves to be in possession of the truth. Both regard themselves as victims and the other as evil. And because they have conceptualized and thereby dehumanized the other as the enemy, they can kill and inflict all kinds of violence on the other, even on children, without feeling their humanity and suffering. They become trapped in an insane spiral of perpetuation and and retribution, action and reaction. Here it becomes obvious that the human ego is in collective aspect as us against them, is even more insane than the me, the individual ego. That is what I talked about, the complaint police. If you are a person that collects bones, you're the bone collector, and you wait for the right time to spread those bones out on the floor and show everybody all the bones you collected, you are the complaint police. You are where people go to make themselves feel better about something terrible that they've said or done about another human being. Flat out. And then they use you. This is another thing about being a complaint police. Then they use you to do their dirty work. They gonna send you out to make yourself look terrible for collecting bones about other people. Why would you do that? Who wants to be the complaint police? Where they do that at? Parents do it. Staff members do it. Toxic. It's just toxic. Here it becomes obvious that the human ego is in its collective aspect as us against them is even more insane than the me, the individual ego, although the mechanism is the same. By far the greater part of violence that humans have inflicted on each other is not the work of criminals or the mentally deranged, but of normal, respectable citizens in the service of their collective ego. This is why it is so important to be in touch with who you are. If you are not centered, if you are not aware, your energy, your ego will take over and have you doing things that you can't take back, that you can't fix. One can go so far as to say that on this planet, normal equals insane. What is it that lies at the root of this insanity? Complete identification with thought and emotions. That is to say, the ego. Greed, selfishness, exploitation, cruelty, and violence are still all pervasive on this planet. When you don't recognize them as individual and collective manifestations of of underlying dysfunction and mental illness, you fall into the error of personalizing them. You construct a conceptual identity for an individual or group, and you say, this is who he is. This is who they are. When you confuse the ego that you perceive in others with their identity, it is the work of your own ego that uses this misperception to strengthen itself through being right and therefore superior. And through reacting with condemnation, indignation, and often anger against your perceived enemy. Do you know you can be mad with somebody that ain't thinking about you? You could be out here on a campaign to get people fired. They ain't even thinking about you because they really ain't did nothing to you. You just are the complaint police. You just are mean. You just are vindictive. You just are focused on your ego, your I statement. And can you imagine when those tables turn? Because one thing we know about life, call it what you want, but that karma thing is real. The energy that you put out, it's coming back to you. And you don't get to decide when, where, how it comes back. Just be ready. Buckle up, Betty. Bars. All this is enormously satisfying to the ego. It strengthens the sense of separation between yourself and the other, whose otherness has become magnified to such an extent that you can no longer feel your common humanity, nor the rootedness in the one life that you share with each human being, your common divinity. We are all on this planet right now, today, at this time, because that's destiny. Everything is happening exactly the way that it's supposed to. Not because you can control it, not because you can change the future. You can plan for the future, but the future is going to future. And there will very likely, not always, you will not have a straight line through your life. My life is made up of bumps, bruises. I done rolled over forks in the road, had flat tires, but my life has still moved on. And although my road has been windy, the path is clear. The goal is clear. The particular egoic patterns that you react to most strongly in others and misperceive as their identity tend to be the same patterns that are also in you, but what you are unable or unwilling to detect from within yourself. In that sense, you have much to learn from your enemies. What is in them that you find most upsetting, most disturbing? Their selfishness, their greed, their need for power and control. Okay, I just lost my space. Sorry, y'all. I got it. Their insecurity, dishonesty, propensity to violence, or whatever it may be. Anything that you resent, and strongly react to in another is also in you. But it is no more than a form of ego, and as such, it is completely impersonal. It has nothing to do with who that person is, nor has it anything to do with who you are. Only if you mistake it for who you are can observing it within you be strengthening to your sense of self. All right, I've been sitting here for I think I can sit for like an hour and 20 minutes, and then the it kicks in, y'all. I'm starting to struggle. I got whew, I got like 10 more pages. I can do this. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I can. War is a mindset. In certain cases, you may need to protect yourself or someone else from being harmed by another. But beware of making it your mission to eradicate evil, as you are likely to turn into the very thing you are fighting against. Fighting unconsciousness will draw you into unconsciousness yourself. Unconsciousness, dysfunctional egoic behavior, can never be defeated by attacking it. You cannot defeat unconsciousness by attacking it. Even if you defeat your opponent, the unconsciousness will simply have moved into you, or the opponent reappears with a new disguise. Just happened to me at work. I've been answering the same question pretty much the same way for months. And because people can't hear, maybe it's a lot of wax. I don't know. I've literally had to have the same conversation 5, maybe 6 times, as if to tell me how bad. Oh my gosh, you haven't been here long enough. How are you going to make a decision? You need to be here longer and do this and this and this and that. I'm like, nope. We're going to do what's best for kids. I've been here long enough to collect data. I've been long enough to look at the data. You're right. I haven't been here long enough to know how the school functions and operates and why it's such a unique school. I think we're working on that because we all don't have a clear definition. But I'm clear, crystal clear. I'm not fighting egoic behavior. And I'm not going to keep explaining myself either. That's it. That's all. These days, you frequently hear the expression, the war against this or that. And whenever I hear it, I know that it is condemned to failure. There is the war against drugs, the war against crime, the war against terrorism, the war against cancer, and the war against poverty, and so on and so forth. For example, despite the war against crime and drugs, there has been a dramatic increase in crime and drug-related offenses in the past 25 years. The prison population of the United States has gone up from just under 300,000 in 1980 to a staggering 2.1 million people in 2004. It's almost 2014. You know that number is bigger. The war against disease has given us, amongst other things, antibiotics. At first, they were specifically successful, seemingly enabling us to win the war against infectious disease. Now, many experts agree that the widespread, indiscriminate use of antibiotics. Why do I keep saying biotics? Antibiotics. I'm sorry, y'all. I ain't never said that word like that in my life either. Anti-B. No, it's anti-bi. Antibiotics. Now, many experts agree that the widespread and indiscriminate use of antibiotics has created a time bomb, and that antibiotic-resistant strains of bacteria, so-called superbugs, will, in all likelihood, be about a reemergence of those diseases and possibly epidemics. According to the Journal of the American Medical Association, medical treatment is the only third leading cause of death after heart disease and cancer in the United States. Homeopathy. I think it's homeopathy. Homeopathy and Chinese medicine are two examples of possible alternative approaches to disease that do not treat the illness as an enemy and therefore does not create new diseases. War is a mindset, and all action that comes out of such a mindset will either strengthen the enemy, the perceived evil, or, if the war is won, create a new enemy, a new evil equal to and often worse than the one that was defeated. There is a deep correlatedness between your state of consciousness and external reality. When you are in the grip of a mindset such as war, your perceptions become extremely selective as well as distorted. In other words, you will see only what you want to see and then misinterpret it. You can imagine what kind of action comes out of such a delusional system, or instead of imagining it, watch the news on TV tonight. I can't imagine being in war. You have a total misconception of reality. And then imagine coming back into what we would call normal society. And then imagine no supports being in place to undo this reality that you've experienced from war and to help you transition into being a productive citizen after. Recognize the ego for what it is, a collective dysfunction, the insanity of the human mind. When you recognize it for what it is, you no longer misperceive it as somebody's identity. Once you see that ego for what it is, it becomes much easier to remain non reactive toward it. You don't take it personally anymore. There is no complaining, blaming, accusing, or making wrong. Nobody is wrong. It is the ego in someone, that's all. Compassion arises when you recognize that all are suffering from the same sickness of the mind. Some are more acute than others. You may not fuel the drama anymore, but it is part of that egoic relationship. What is its fuel? Reactivity. The ego thrives on it, which is why I said you have to, for your sanity, if you are on any side in corporate or an institutional system in America, you have to learn to speak in the vernacular of silence. You just have to. It is your superpower once you master it. Do you want peace or drama? Oh, Kendrick wrote about this in his song, y'all. Give me 2 seconds. I gotta Google it just so I can tell y'all. All right. The lyrics are Savior. Kendrick has a song on his Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. It's called Savior. In Savior, he says, Kendrick made you think about it, but he is not your savior. Cole made you feel empowered, but he is not your savior. Future said, get your money counter, but he is not your savior. Brian made you give him his flowers, but he is not your savior. Then this part right here, do you want peace or drama? It comes, here we go. This is verse 2 of that song. Bite their tongues in rap lyrics, scared to be crucified about a song, but they won't admit it. Politically correct is how you keep an opinion. Ends is tight-lipped. Fuck who dare to be different. Seen a Christian say the vaccine is the mark of the beast. Then he caught COVID and prayed to Pfizer for relief. Then I caught COVID and started to question Kyrie. Will I stay organic or hurt in this bed for 2 weeks? Do you want peace? Then watch us in the street. One protest for you, 365 for me. Vladimir, as in Putin, making nightmares. But that's how we all think. Don't point a finger at Vladimir Putin either, y'all. Because that's how we all think. That's how we all think. The collective conscious. That's what Eckhart is talking about. That's literally what Kendrick Lamar is talking about. Calamities on repeat. Do you want peace? I don't think so. Because if you wanted peace, You wouldn't let your ego control you. You wouldn't let your ego make you feel a way. You wouldn't let your ego gut reaction cause you to speak badly about another human being. You just would not. You would choose peace, but you choose war. Just because your war is not as big as Vladimir Putin's or any other war we've experienced, you still at war inside yourself. You still at war with another human being. You still at war with a decision that was made that you can't change. You still at war because you don't like somebody. You still at war because somebody hurt your feelings. We are all killers. Verbally, mentally, spiritually, and some of us physically. But we are all guilty. Do you want peace or drama? You want peace. There is no one who does not want peace. Yet, there is something else in you that wants the drama, that wants the conflict. You may not be able to feel it at this moment. You may have to wait for a situation or even just a thought that triggers a reaction in you. Someone accusing you of this or that, not acknowledging you, encroaching on your territory, questioning the way you do things, an argument about money. Can you then feel the enormous surge of force moving through you? The feet, perhaps being masked by anger or hostility? Can you hear your own voice becoming harsh or shrill or louder and a few octaves lower? Can you be aware of your mind racing to defend its position, justify, attack, blame? In other words, can you feel that there is something in you that is at war? Something that feels threatened and wants to survive at all costs, that needs the drama in order to assert its identity as the victorious character within that theoretical production. Can you feel there is something in you that will rather be right than at peace? Would you rather be right or would you rather have peace? And a lot of y'all just want to be right. I can be right, and I can be the only person that thinks that I'm right. I choose me, and I choose peace. I speak in the vernacular of silence when I know I'm right, and I'm not about to argue with you. You want to keep saying the same thing to me? If that makes you feel good, but I'm going to remove myself from this conversation because I'm good. I'm peace. I'm love. I'm light. I don't have time. You will not verbally abuse me. You will not mentally abuse me. You will not spiritually abuse me. And you will not physically abuse me. You got the right one. Beyond ego, your true identity. When the ego is at war, know that it is no more than an illusion that is fighting to survive. That illusion thinks it is you. It is not easy at first to be there as the witnessing presence, especially when the ego is in survival mode or some emotional pattern from the past has become activated. But once you have had a taste of it, you will grow in presence, power, and the ego will lose its grip on you. That means once you've been through some things, once you've had some experiences, once you are awakened, not woke, awakened, and once you are aware, moving that ego out of the way becomes easier and easier. You just keep practicing it consciously. And so a power comes into your life that is far greater than the ego, greater than the mind. All that it is required to become free of the ego is to be aware of it. Since awareness and ego are incompatible, awareness is the power that is concealed within the present moment. This is why we may also call it presence. The ultimate purpose of human existence, which is to say your purpose, is to bring that power into this world. And this is also why becoming free of the ego cannot be made into a goal to be attained at some point in the future. Only presence can free you of the ego. And you can only be present now, not yesterday, not tomorrow, now. Only presence can undo the past in you and thus transform your state of consciousness. What is spiritual realization? The belief that you are a spirit? No, that's a thought. A little closer to the truth than the thought that believes you are who your birth certificate says you are, but still a thought. Spiritual realization is to see clearly that what I perceive, experience, think, or feel is ultimately not who I am. That I cannot find myself in all those things that continuously pass away. The Buddha was probably the first human being to see this clearly. And so, anatta, no self, became one of the central points of his teaching. And when Jesus said, deny thyself, what he meant was negate and thus undo the illusion of self. If the self ego were truly who I am, it would be absurd to deny it. What remains is the light of consciousness in which perceptions, experiences, thoughts, and feelings come and go. That is being. That is the deeper, true I. When I know myself as that, whatever happens in my life is no longer about or is no longer absolute, but only of relative importance. I honor it, but it loses its absolute seriousness, its heaviness. The only thing that ultimately matters is this: can I sense my essential beingness, the I am, in the background of my life at all times? To be more accurate, can I sense that I am that I am? I am that I am. Let that resonate with you. And I want you to say it with me because you are. I am that I am. Not yesterday, not tomorrow. I am consciousness. I am presentness. I am nowness. I am Godness. I am that I am. Can I sense my essential identity as consciousness itself? Or am I losing myself in what happens, losing myself in the mind, in the world? All structures are unstable. Whatever form it takes, the unconscious drive behind ego is to strengthen the image of who I think I am, the phantom self that came into existence when thought, a great blessing as well as a great curse, began to take over and obscure the simple yet profound joy of connectedness with being, the source, God. Whatever behavior the ego manifests, the hidden motivating force is always the same: the need to stand out, be special, be in control, the need for power, for attention, for more. And of course, the need to feel a sense of separation. That is to say, the need for opposition, the need to have an enemy. The ego always wants something from other people or situations. There is always a hidden agenda, always a sense of not enough yet, of insufficiency and lack that needs to be filled. It uses people and situations to get what it wants. And even when it succeeds, it is never satisfied for long. Often, it is thwarted in its aims. And for the most part, the gap between I want and what is becomes a constant source of upset and anguish. The famous and now classic pop song, I Can't Get No Satisfaction, is the song of the ego. The underlying emotion that governs all activity of the ego is fear. The fear of being nobody, the fear of non existence, the fear of death. I've never understood that. From the moment we were born, there was a clock set on our beingness. And we all know it, right? The twin of life is death. They go hand in hand. There is not one without the other. And when people operate in fear of dying, how? It is a part of life. So when you fear death, you are also fearing living. You cannot be afraid of dying. It is a guaranteed, and there's not many guarantees in this world, but death is one of them, right? And so when you operate in that fear, how do you fully live? You don't, because you're scared to die. I'm going to say that again. When you operate in the fear of dying, something that is guaranteed, it is not something that is imagined. It is not something that we need somebody to teach us about. It is a part of the living experience that you're going to die. People been dying since life began. And when you cannot live because of, I'm scared, I have fear of heights and this and that. How? You know you're going to die, right? Like, I mean, I ain't trying to be you. I'm being factual. You know you're going to die. So live and stop thinking about it. It's coming. You just don't know when. You don't know how. And you might not know why. You know that's coming. So why are you focusing on it? Focus on living. Okay, let me stop preaching. I'm sorry, y'all. But that drives me crazy about human beings, especially when they talk about it and dwell on it. I can't absorb that type of energy. It's just backwards thinking. The fear of being nobody, the fear of non-existence, the fear of death, all its activities are ultimately designed to eliminate this fear. But the most the ego can ever do is to cover it up temporarily with an intimate relationship, a new possession, or winning at this or that. Illusion will never satisfy you. Only the truth of who you are, if realized. Everybody does not realize. Everybody does not move into consciousness. Everybody is not aware of their beingness because they operate in their humanness. But once you get into your beingness, you will be set free. Why fear? Because the ego arises by identification with form. And deep down, it knows that no forms are permanent. Your ego knows this, right? That they are all fleeting, that they are all, this whole place we reside in is temporary. Your house won't always exist. It hasn't always existed. The building won't always be standing. Things of this world won't always be. So there is always a sense of insecurity around the ego, even if on the outside it appears confident. As I was walking with a friend through a beautiful nature reserve near Malibu in California, we came upon the ruins of what had been once a country house. I just talked about the house not existing no more. Oh my goodness. I haven't read this yet, y'all. Destroyed by a fire several decades ago. As we approached the property, long overgrown with trees and all kinds of magnificent plants, there was a sign by the side of the trail put there by the park authorities. It read, "Danger. All structures are unstable." I said to my friend, "That's a profound sutra, sacred scripture." And we stood there in awe. It reminds me of when I went to the Maya ruins. There was a whole community that thrived there. The old buildings kind of sort of are still there. The structure of the community is still there, but it's not there anymore. It doesn't work in this day and age. It has evolved. It has changed. The grass has overgrown it. I was, oh, this is a good one, y'all. Okay, I gotta mark my space. I've been in this space of trying to figure out like when it is my time to go. I used to didn't want to get buried because I'm like, why? I don't exist anymore. This avatar is just, it has released itself back into the universe. The energy has become universal again. It's not contained inside of this avatar. So why do I need to let this body go into a cemetery? It seems very self-centered, right? Because then you got to pay for space, you got to have upkeep. You think people are going to come visit this deceased decade avatar that it can't even see anymore and talk to a headstone? Like, honestly, no disrespect for people that is a thing for them. I just don't get it. I just don't understand it. I believe if we don't even know where Jesus was buried, and we can't go visit, why do you need a tombstone? I'm just saying, like, I'm sorry if I'm hurting y'all Christian feelings. I'm a believer, but I'm just going to keep it a bean in a butt. Why? And then, like, I really don't have a place. I'm going to talk to my kids. I'm going to ask them what they need. Because, like, I'm like, don't spend that kind of money on this now gone consciousness. I'm not here no more. I'm in you now. I reside on YouTube spaces. I reside in things that I've put in place in the world. I reside in students that I've taught. Like, I've evolved. And then, what if nobody comes to visit the tombstone? What was the point? I have ancestors in Louisiana, and we can't even get to the cemetery because nobody took care of it. Nobody went back there and mowed the grass and mowed. And so now we can't even get to see the ancestors back there because nobody cared enough to take care of it. So what was the point? Those things won't always be. Those things. So yeah, I'm going through this whole, like, since I like am mentally like aware of life, what is the point of a cemetery? It seems very self-centered and selfish. It seems a part of the matrix of life. It seems really capitalistic. It seems like something that we've indoctrinated ourselves with needing when we don't really. Some people can't even fathom going. It brings them too much emotions. Some people need to go to the cemetery because that's just all they know. I don't know that my kids need that. And if my kids don't need that, I don't want that. I need y'all to figure something else out. Maybe we can go, do the whole, what's the thing called when you get cremated. Send me, like, let me go back and go to Africa. Like, I don't even know, y'all. It's just, I don't know. I'm in a really weird place about our human beingness and all of the things that we do just because that's all we know how to do. Again, we can't go visit Jesus's tombstone. He rose up, right? Like, and we have wars about the territory where he was supposedly buried. So if you can't go visit where Jesus is, why you need to visit me? Just saying. I'm just saying. Okay. Hey, M. Renee. Thank you for being here. It's good to see you too, boo. All right, let me get back into this. I'm sorry, y'all. And again, if I hurt y'all Christianity feelings, I'm sorry. That's just how I feel about some of the things that we've been taught to do. And like, yeah, those spaces won't even exist 100, 1,000. I don't know. But if your family needs that, don't let my little opinion stop you from doing what y'all family been doing for generations. Do you? Y'all whole family might be in the same cemetery. I get it. I respect it. All right. So I stopped here. I'm going to go back and read the beginning because I don't even know what I was talking about before I went off on my tangent. As I was walking with a friend through a beautiful nature reserve near Malibu in California, we came upon the ruins of what had been once a country house destroyed by a fire several decades ago. As we approached the property, long overgrown with trees and all kinds of magnificent plants, there was a sign by the side of the trail put there by the park authorities. It read, "Danger. All structures are unstable." I said to my friend, "That's a profound sutra, sacred scripture." And we stood there in awe. Once you realize and accept that all structures, forms are unstable, even the seemingly solid material ones, peace arises within you. This is because the recognition of the impermanence of all forms, even that cemetery that you're going to be buried in, all forms awakens you to the dimension of the formless within yourself, that which is beyond death. Jesus called it eternal life. The ego's need to feel superior. There are many subtle but easily overlooked forms of ego that you may observe in other people and, more important, in yourself. Remember, the moment you become aware of the ego in yourself, that emerging awareness is who you are beyond ego. The deeper I, the recognition of the false, is already the arising of the real. For example, you are about to tell someone the news of what happened. Guess what? You don't know yet? Let me tell you. If you alert enough, present enough, you may be able to detect a momentary sense of satisfaction within yourself just before imparting the news, even if it is bad news. I'm guilty. It's called gossiping. I'm guilty. I always will throw myself under. I told somebody this the other day. I'm not worried about you telling on me. I typically tell on myself before anybody else does. So if you need to do something and say something to my superior, I promise you, they already know, baby. But do what makes you feel good. Y'all, that bothers people too. I'd be like, I'm not going to have a whole pity party or a campaign to stop you from doing what you feel like you need to do. I'm going to take a pause because it looks like my internet is interneting. It's being really weird for some reason, even though I'm plugged in. And I don't like it when it does this. So let's take a sip of the tea. we're gonna drink tea and wait. We got 2 bars. We just need one more to come back, and I'll restart. There we go. We back. I don't know why the internet. Again, I'm not on Wi-Fi. I am plugged into my computer. It just do what it want to do though. I think it's StreamYard at this point because I got a whole brand new internet, and it is awesome. And it only acts goofy with StreamYard. So I am clear now. It's StreamYard, y'all. Okay. It is due to the fact that for a brief moment, there is in the eyes of the ego an imbalance in your favor between you and the other person. For that brief moment, you know more than the other. The satisfaction that you feel is of the ego, and it is derived from feeling a stronger sense of self relative to the other person. Even if he or she is the president or the pope, you feel superior in that moment because you know more. Many people are addicted to gossiping partly for this reason. In addition, gossiping often carries an element of malicious criticism and judgment of others. And so it also strengthens the ego through the implied but imagined moral superiority that is there whenever you apply a negative judgment to anyone. If someone has more, knows more, or can do more than I, the ego feels threatened because the feeling of less diminishes its imagined sense of self relative to the other. It may then try to restore itself by somehow diminishing, criticizing, or belittling the value of the other person's possessions, knowledge, or abilities. Or the ego may shift its strategy, and instead of competing with the other person, it will enhance itself by association with that person if he or she is important in the eyes of others. Ego and fame, I would say probably in positions of power, bosses, superiors. Let's see what Eckhart says. Ego and fame. The well-known phenomenon of name dropping, the causal mention of who you know is part of the ego's strategy of gaining a superior identity in the eyes of others, and therefore in its own eyes through association with someone important. I do not hang out with people who name drop. I cannot take it. It drives me crazy. Child, I don't care who you know. I don't know. They don't know me. They're not helping me pay no bills. What that mean? I'm supposed to like you because of who you know? No, God. The bane of being famous in this world is that who you are becomes totally obscured by a collective mental image. Most people you meet want to enhance their identity, the mental image of who they are, through association with you. They themselves may not know that they are not interested in you at all, but only in strengthening their ultimately fictitious sense of self. They believe that through you, they can be more. They are looking to complete themselves through you, or rather through the mental image they have of you as a famous person, a larger than life collective conceptual identity. The absurd over evaluation of fame is just one of the many manifestations of egoic madness in our world. Some famous people fall into the same era and identify with the collective fiction. That means their heads get big. Your head blew up, girl. You is now all that and then some. Stop it. The image people and the media have created of them, and they began to actually see themselves as superior to ordinary mortals. As a result, they become more and more alienated from themselves and others, more and more unhappy, more and more dependent on their continuing popularity. Surrounded only by people who feed their inflated self-image, they become they become incapable of genuine relationships. So they surround themselves with yes men. They surround themselves with people who are ignorant. They surround themselves with people who won't tell them the truth. Albert Einstein, who was admired as almost superhuman and whose fate is what has become one of the most famous people on the planet, never identified with the image the collective mind had created of him. He remained humble, egoless. In fact, he spoke of a grotesque contradiction between what people consider to be my achievements and abilities and the reality of who I am and what I am capable of. He humbled himself. He had gifts. God gives us all gifts. Some of us choose to tap into our gifts, and some of us choose not to. I have lived a very blessed life where I have been able to tap into all of my gifts at some point in time. And because of that, it has created this version of me. This version is not the version that the younger me thought I would be. This version is not doing the things that the younger me thought I would be doing because I had to let go of my ego and allow presentness and beingness to do its thing and to realize my limited vision of what I could be was going to get in the way of all of the things that the universe, that God needed me to be. You can get in your own way of success if you only will go through one door. I went through a door that I didn't think I wanted to go through to get into this position that I'm in. And it was the best thing I could have ever done. And when I look back at my life, that has happened to me more times than I kept track of. I did things that weren't necessarily comfortable in what I thought I wanted to do, but it was the best thing that I needed to do to get to where God wanted me to get to. That is releasing all of your ego. That is saying, you know what? I can't even see that far ahead. I don't even have that kind of vision. When I had my interview for my PhD program, they asked me where I saw myself 5 and 10 years from now. Usually you will have a canned answer, right? I want to do this, 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 and that. This is the first time that I said, I want to be wherever the universe needs me to be. And I don't know what that looks like. Because of the experiences that I've had, I've stopped limiting myself to what I want to do. I now reside in, where does the universe need me to be? Where does the universe need me to go? And that is the position that I will go to. I want to help kids. I know that for sure. I enjoy seeing joy in children. And there are some places that I am going to have to go to, like where I'm at now and working with adults, that I never thought I would do in order to see more joy in children. Because there are some broken grown-ups raising children. And now the universe needs me to help heal. I'm clear on that. Clear. Y'all, it is the most amazing place to be when you know without a shadow of a doubt, I don't have control over my life like that. I have relinquished myself. I am here to do the will of God. I am here to do the will of the universe. I am here. I am consciousness. I am energy. This is why it is hard for a famous person to be in a genuine relationship with others. A genuine relationship is one that is not dominated by the ego with its image making and self seeking. In a genuine relationship, there is an outward flow of open, alert attention toward the other person in which there is no wanting whatsoever. The alert attention is presence. It is the prerequisite for any authentic relationship. The ego always either wants something, or if it believes there is nothing to get from the other, it is in a state of utter indifference. It doesn't care about you. And so, the three predominant states of egoic relationships are wanting, thwarted wantings, which are anger, resentment, blaming, and complaining, and then indifference. It has been a pleasure to be with you all today. I love you. I love you. Say it with me. I am that I am. Because you are. You are energy. You are light. You are consciousness. You are God energy. It is within you. You are powerful. Use it. Know it. Believe it. I love you all. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here live, or thank you for being on the replay. I love you. Have a blessed week. And Renee, I'll put it in the chat. Give me 2 seconds.